Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the Transformers Siege War for Cybertron Trilogy 35th Anniversary Classic Animation Optimus Prime. And this figure is a Walmart exclusive in the United States, but I was able to get this figure from overseas, and that's why I have it now. But I do believe that he's scheduled to hit stores this November, so hopefully you're able to find this figure pretty soon if you want to get it. But anyways, let's take a look at the packaging here. You're able to see the figure right here. He looks super cool inside of the box here, and this box is very similar to other Siege packaging, but it's a little bit different because on this side we usually get some really cool character artwork, but in this case we just get the red background. It says 35 Transformers more than meets the eye, and then down here it says 1984 and 2019 with the little Autobots logo there. And but the packaging does still look very cool. It's collector friendly. You could take the figure out, put it back in, all that cool stuff. On this side we have that War for Cybertron artwork that we've seen on all the other characters, and then on the back we get a look at the figure, and then we see him in his diesel mode here. And unfortunately the company that I bought this from stuck this big ugly sticker right here. I tried to peel it off, but I could not. Oh well, I'll probably get a razor blade and try to like scrape that off with some Goo Gone or something like that. We'll see. But anyways, the packaging looks cool, the figure looks awesome inside of there, but let's rip him out of here and take a look. So here's Optimus Prime right out of the box, and this figure's looking very nice. I'm really liking that cell shaded effect to him. It really sells the animated look and feel, and it just comes across really nice. Check out right here on the chest area, which is the windshields, you have the blue with the white streaks in there, and it really gives it like a feel of like reflection, but not like a realistic look, just like in an animated way. So that is really cool. Same thing on the face. As you can see, the mouth area is gray, but then there's that white streak across the nose and mouth area, and it just makes it look like something is reflecting off there, especially because they only put it on one side. So that is super dope, and that kind of carries throughout the whole figure. As you can see, like over here where it's primarily red, there's some lighter red in there, and it just gives it like a sense of movement almost. And that is just really cool. And then down in this area, the hips and pelvis area are white with some blue streaks in there. That all looks really good. And the paint job is really nice on this figure for the most part. There's no sloppiness or anything. But right in here, it gets a little light, and you could kind of see some red under the white there. But other than that, the paint job is pretty much perfect. And then down in here, same thing with the dark blue and light blues kind of going together and giving it like a sense of motion almost, you could say. And man, it just looks really cool. This figure, just look at that thing. That is a beautiful figure. And this thing just looks great. You have these things here. I think they're called smokestacks. I forget. They're a little short on him, but I think they're cool. And then you have amazing sculpted details on this figure. And I like all the little paint details, man. It really brings the sculpt out. It looks very nice. You have the fingers here that you could kind of make out. I'm not a big fan of the Siege figure hands. I wish they would find a way to make them like interchangeable hands. That would be awesome, because I know articulated fingers are very hard in this scale, but I think interchangeable hands would be awesome. But I do like that they have the details of the actual fingers in there, so that's cool. Down in here, more details. Yeah, the figure is very nice. But the sculpt on this figure is really no surprise, because just in case you don't know, this figure is basically just a repaint of the Siege Optimus Prime that we saw earlier this year. And this was an amazing figure too, but it had a lot of, like, I don't know what it is actually, like battle damage, I guess you could say, or like this weird, like, messy paint effect. Not messy in a bad way. I think this figure looks great. I love this figure. But, you know, I think all that stuff kind of keeps it from looking so G1. Obviously, the Siege figures are inspired by the G1 looks, and this effect kind of just throws that off, but that's okay for the Siege stuff, especially when they come around and do stuff like this. And this figure doesn't have any of that kind of weird paint effect on it. And it is kind of hard to tell on camera, but the differences in the reds are pretty apparent. But right here, they look very similar. But if you're looking at them in hand or holding the two figures, you could definitely see the differences in the two reds. And then here's a closer look at the head sculpt, which I think is really nice. I especially like the big blue eyes. I think that looks really good. And just in general, it's a really nice looking head sculpt. You have the details on the side of the head there. On the back, you have some more details. And it just looks really nice. And as for the accessories, he does come with his blaster. The blaster looks good too, and it does have that line across the top to continue with that animated type of look, so that is cool. But other than that, there's not too much to it, but he does look very cool holding it. And then aside from that, he does come with this thing, which is like a axe type of thing. Actually, it has multiple different functions, but first off, let's take the blades out here. It's definitely his axe. And this is okay, but I wish he would have came with like his big energy axe. I think that would have been cool. But you know, this is alright. And then you have the Autobot logo there. And you could bring these down and fold this up. And maybe put on the top of his gun if you want. Or you could put it on his arm and it could kind of work as a shield. And there you go. And that's okay. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this thing, but it's decent, I guess. And if you don't want to have him deal with it, just put it on his back. And even though I like this figure a lot, there are a few things that I dislike about it. The first thing would be the arms. And I just don't like all this stuff hanging from the arms, man. It just looks crazy. There's just too much going on with the arms. And I wish they would have found a better way to do this. And I know with some other Optimus Prime figures, it has the thing where like the forearms would kind of open and these transformation pieces would kind of just fold into the forearms. And I understand it's probably hard to do that at this price point, but I wish they would have figured something else out because I really don't like the way this stuff looks. And even though I'm not a fan of it, it's forgivable. I could kind of get past it. It's just something that when I think about it, it's a little frustrating. And then back here too, we have this big old crazy piece and it just looks a little clunky back here, but again, that's on the back of the figure, so it's not a, you know, it's not a big deal, but it's just something that kind of bugs me. But for the most part, I love the way this figure looks, and even though it doesn't perfectly capture every detail of the G1 Optimus Prime, I feel like it gives off the feeling and has the presence of the G1 Optimus Prime, and I think that is awesome. So I'm very happy with the way that this figure looks. And for some size comparisons, we have Optimus Prime alongside the Siege War for Cybertron Impactor and the Siege War for Cybertron Springer, and I really love the way these bright colored Transformers look together. And then here's Optimus alongside the Siege War for Cybertron Soundwave and the Siege Megatron. Next up, we have Optimus Prime alongside the Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man and Marvel Legends Bucky Cap. And just for the simple fact that I'm really loving these two figures right now, here's Optimus Prime alongside the Mafex Miles Morales and Mafex Venom. So now it's time to transform Optimus into his iconic vehicle mode, and it looks like it's going to take us 27 steps to do that. So that's not horrible, and I'm sure with some patience we could get through it here, but let's go ahead and get started. The first step is a very simple one. We are to bring his arms up like that. Next, we swing his legs around so the back of his legs are facing forward. And then we have these side panels that we bring up. And then next, we're going to flip these around like that. Same thing here, flip it around like that. And then we take these parts of the legs and we swing them out like that. Bam. Bam. And the next step would be to clip these two together. And you just squeeze them until you kind of hear a snap, I guess. Oh, actually I didn't even hear it. But yeah, you just squeeze these together. And then now the two legs are pressed together. So I'm trying to go step by step based on the directions here, but if we do that, we run into some trouble because the next step would be to bring these little panels up, but it's very hard once you've clicked the legs together. It's pretty much impossible. I couldn't do it, and it's hard. I tried to get my nail in there. I tried to push this up from right here. It just wouldn't work. But I found that if you separate the legs, you could get your nail into here and bring it up. And same thing on this side. You can bring it up like that. And they're supposed to be up here, so once you do that, then you could refasten the legs, and then there we go. But yeah, that was really difficult. So I feel like this step should have been before the previous one. And the next thing we're gonna do is bring this up and swing this around. And the next step would be to fold Mr. Prime just like that. And then now we're gonna collapse his toes, I guess you could call them. You bring these together like that. And up at the arms, we're going to go ahead and swing these pieces out. So now they're facing that way in front of him. Now we go ahead and bring his shoulders all the way back here on both sides. There we go. We're about halfway, it looks like now. The next thing we're going to do is bring his tires down, or his wheels. So it's coming along. He's starting to look like a diesel. Looks like we'll be there pretty soon. So the next thing we're going to do is bring this up. And then we're going to open his chest here. Open that up. Drop his head down. Bring these out. And there's another piece in here that we're going to want to swing out like that. And now we're at step 20 and it tells us just to bring these out like this. Next, it looks like we're going to swing the arms in this way. This is a mistake I often make when I'm transforming Optimus. I always leave his wheels like this and it gets in the way, so you have to bring these down like that. And then you're able to swing his arms into where they're supposed to be. And then once we have the arms where they're supposed to be here, you could bring these up on both sides. There we go. So now what we're going to do is bring this piece down. And if you've lined everything up so far, then everything should kind of just tab into place naturally. As you can see, those tab right into the side there. You could close the windshields. And all that looks really good. You could tab these in. Once those are tabbed in, you could bring these forward. Then you could bring the wheels up. And there we go. We got it. So there he is, Optimus in his diesel mode, and I know that wasn't the smoothest transformation ever. I definitely hit a couple of speed bumps, but to be honest with you, once you get used to it and transform him a few times, he's very easy to transform. I was just trying to slowly go through it and show all the steps, but really with Optimus, it's kind of better just to figure out your own way to do it. Of course, the steps are a good guideline, but some of them, I feel like they're in the wrong order. But anyways, I'm sure you could figure it out. Like I said, it's kind of simple. Just take your time with it and be patient. And I'm sure anyone could figure out how to transform him from bot mode to truck mode. But anyways, the way this looks is awesome. I think that the animated effect carries over really well to the vehicle mode, especially because the windshield, you have that those different colors that we talked about earlier. In some places, it doesn't make as much sense. Like on the side of the truck here, you have that big lighter red coming down here, and it just doesn't look as good as these red lines look when he's in robot mode. But it's still fine. It doesn't look bad or anything. I just feel like the animated look doesn't carry over as well on this side. But from the front, it looks awesome. And then here's a quick look at him next to the earlier Siege Optimus Prime, and obviously that one has more of a like a Cybertronian look to it because of the paint job. And this obviously just has the G1 animated influence. But yeah, overall, I think both of these look awesome. And I think this one looks really good in truck mode as well as in bot mode. Optimus Prime's articulation is pretty good, but there are a few things that I wish he had that he doesn't. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with what you're able to do with this figure. So first off, his head is on a little ball joint, so you could get him to look side to side. He's got a little bit of tilt to it, but not very much. He could look up only to about right there. And then he could look down to about right there. So not very much movement, but you know, that's to be expected with the way that he's designed. And then for the torso, all we really have is a waist swivel. I do wish that there was some type of ab crunch in there, or not ab crunch, but you guys know what I mean. I wish there was some kind of torso movement other than the waist. But, you know, I guess it's kind of hard for them to stick that in there when you have to consider the transformation. I know some of the more expensive Optimus Primes do have like a type of ab crunch, but they just didn't do it here. And, you know, it's fine. I just wish it was there. But yeah, all we really have is the waist swivel. And then for the arms, his shoulders are able to come back a little bit because part of his transformation. They can't really come forward, but I do appreciate the fact they go back because then you could kind of do some cool stuff with them, you know. And then his arms are able to go all the way around. And you could bring his arm out to the side like that. You do have these things here that kind of get in the way, but luckily they just kind of hinge out of the way. So that's awesome. And then you have a upper bicep swivel and single jointed elbows, but they get some pretty nice bend. Look at that. That's really good. And then for the legs, you're able to get them to come out all the way to the side. They could go back all the way. They could go forward all the way. And then you have like a swivel here right above the knee area, so that's nice. And then you have single jointed knees, but they get some great bend, so that's cool. Could definitely get them into some cool poses like that. And then let's see what else we have going on here. And then at the feet, you do have like an ankle rocker type of deal going on, so that definitely helps for getting them into some cool poses. But yeah, like I said, it's not a crazy amount, but it's pretty good. I'm happy with what we have going on here. I definitely wish there was a few more things thrown in there, but for the most part you could really get him into some cool poses, so I'm happy with the articulation on him. Okay guys, so overall I really like this figure. I think he looks amazing. I love the cell shaded animated type of effect they gave to him. It comes across really nice, and even though he's not a perfect representation of G1 Optimus Prime down to every single detail, I do think that he captures the spirit and the presence and the overall feel of that version of the character, and I just think that he looks really nice. The articulation is pretty good on him. I wish there was a little more going on, but for the most part, I'm happy with what we have. The accessories are okay. As long as he came with his blaster, I'm happy, but I would have preferred if he came with the energy axe instead of the one that we got. But overall, he's a really good figure, and I'm very happy with it. And I think it's really cool that Hasbro gives people less expensive options for Optimus Prime, because there's a bunch of really cool figures out there of him. And when I first decided I wanted to collect a couple of Transformers figures, I knew the first thing I had to do was get a good Optimus Prime, and I started looking, and it's overwhelming because there's so many versions of Optimus Prime out there. There's, you know, the official ones, there's Hasbro ones, there's other official companies, there's third-party knockoffs, and all kinds of crazy stuff, and a lot of them look really good, but a lot of them are very expensive. Like the Masterpiece stuff, that stuff looks incredible, but there's no way that I'm gonna pay $450 for an Optimus Prime figure. Even though it looks great, I just can't do it. So I love the fact that Hasbro is giving people less expensive options, and I think this figure definitely falls into that category. It's a less expensive option of G1 Optimus Prime that looks really good, but I really can't wait to get that Earthrise Optimus Prime that they just announced. That thing looks incredible, and hopefully they release a version with the cell shaded look to it. I think that would be awesome. And I think for the most part, I'm just gonna collect the less expensive Hasbro Transformers figures, with one exception. I do plan on picking up the upcoming Revoltech Optimus Prime, only because I want a superposable version of the character, and that thing looks great. I love the colors and stuff, and the articulation looks awesome, so I can't wait for that figure, and I think that comes out pretty soon too, so hopefully that starts popping up. But anyways, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Be sure to leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much. Peace.